Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro Moros confirmed the resumption of the peace dialogues between his government and the unitary platform of Venezuelan opposition groups. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel signed cooperation agreements to enhance China-Cuba relations in the last stop of his Eurasian tour. Also, United Nations in Afghanistan urged the Taliban government to stop violence against women. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro Moros confirmed that the peace dialogue between his government and the unitary platform of the Venezuelan opposition groups will resume. Maduro said this dialogue seeks to create a mechanism to address social needs and problems related to vital public services. Maduro thanked the Kingdom of Norway and the government of Mexico for facilitating the resumption of these dialogues in order to strengthen peace in the country. Has announced that a cabinet reshuffle following the resignation of Prime Minister Aníbal Torres. The president's decision came hours after a plenary session of the Congressional Board rejected a request for a vote of confidence made by the Prime Minister. The now ex-premier had requested the appeal or the repeal for Law 31,399 on the grounds that it overrides the right of all citizens to participate in politics directly, without intermediaries, through a referendum. President Castillo thanked Torres for his concern and his work for the country. During his message to the nation, Peruvian President Pedro Castillo urged those who unsuccessfully keep on trying to remove him from power by whichever means to cease their destabilizing maneuvers.
I say to those who from Congress keep on trying to have the presidency vacated with false accusation, with unnatural suspensions and political disqualifications, with groundless charge of treason, that they are simply turning their backs on the sovereign will of the citizen expressed at the ballot box.
In Chile, truck drivers' unions announced on Friday they will meet with the authorities to find a solution to their demands after 5 consecutive days of strike and road blockades. According to a union statement, the meeting seeks answers to their demands, fundamentally the reduction of fuel prices and the increase of security measures on the roads. The truck drivers also denounced violent repression by the police forces during their 5-day strike. Chilean President Gabriel Boric said that the strike is unjustifiable, especially in the context of the economic reactivation. At the same time, the Ministry of the Interior reaffirmed that it will appeal to the state security law against those who carry out road blockades. Hundreds of thousands of Argentines bid farewell to Hebe de Bonafini in the Plaza de Mayo a few days after her physical departure. The event was convened by the Mothers of Plaza de Mayo Association, which was presided over by the world leader in the struggle for the defense of human rights. From Buenos Aires, our correspondent Carolina Silvestre gives us more information.
In compliance with the request of Hebe de Bonafini, the day I die, we must not cry, we must dance and sing. The Argentine people paid tribute to her in this way, in spite of the pain caused by her physical absence.
In this square where she was born with a struggle, it is because of her example, fundamentally, that struggles are not abandoned. Her love for her children, for all children, her love for human rights, for social justice. Hebe is an example for the Argentinian men and women. That is why we, the deputies, could not fail to be present here, accompanying the mothers.
During the 2,328th march around the Plaza de Mayo pyramid, activists highlighted the leader's struggle.
Let's think about how you face a genocidal dictatorship that not only kill your children but also kidnap mothers who are claiming for them if you are not brave, if you are not audacious, if you are not brave. Well, Hebe was all that, and we vindicated her. I think there are irreplaceable people who are there, who mark a path, and no other could do it like that. I wish there were people who have been able to take over and who can continue the path she marked together with other mothers.
They also honored the legacy of Hebe de Bonafini with the commitment to continue raising the handkerchiefs as a flag of victory and hope.
She did not negotiate with anyone. She defended not only the truth but also our collective rights. And in the last stage, she helped rescuing the children. She found street children, and we look forward to continuing her legacy, having her disappeared children as a guide today, but looking at other children, new children. So in that way, I rescue her as well.
She was and will be remembered as a mother who fought for the lives of 30,000 children and for each and every one of the battles she fought for noble and just causes.
She's here, together with Villaflor, because she's another mother that we lost very soon. But Hebe means the spirit of total defiance to tell the truth against all odds.
Forever present in the Plaza de Mayo and in the hearts of all Argentines, his ashes were scattered in that iconic place at the express request of Hebe.
Carolina Silvestre, TeleSUR, Buenos Aires.
Thank you, Carolina, for this report. And now we move on to other topics. 6 years after his death, the legacy of Fidel Castro, Cuban and Latin American revolutionary leader and one of the most prominent political figures of the 20th and 21st centuries, lives on. According to Fidel's thought, it was impossible to transform the reality of Latin America without remembering its history and understanding the legacy of colonialism and imperialism in order to fight racism, poverty, and exploitation. Achieving unity and integration of Latin America and the Caribbean were fundamental to his strategic vision and represented continuity of the ideas of independence leaders such as José Martí and Simón Bolívar. Under these principles, Fidel conceived the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America. Fidel was the world's greatest advocate of internationalism, and solidarity has been a pillar of Cuban foreign policy ever since he came to power, expressed in medical aid, cultural and sports missions in countries across the world. Fidel's greatest legacy is to demonstrate that there are alternatives to neoliberal and hegemonic capitalist models, and that certainly a better world is possible. Let's take a short break, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel Bermudez arrived on Thursday in Beijing to start a state visit to China. The head of state was invited by his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping and will remain in this nation until November 26 to develop a brief and intense work agenda. President Xi Jinping received Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel at the Great Palace of the People of Beijing, where both leaders analyzed the prospects for bilateral cooperation between their nations. The Chinese leader stressed that his country will continue to firmly support Cuba in defending its national sovereignty and opposing external interference and blockade, and also said that China is ready to work with Cuba to implement the Global Development Initiative and Global Security Initiative and jointly promote world peace and development. The Cuban president thanked Xi for the invitation to carry out this official visit to China and ratified the interests of his administration in strengthening friendship ties. Since their meeting coincided with the 6th anniversary of the death of Fidel Castro, Diaz-Canel recalled that the historic leader of the Cuban Revolution held Xi in high esteem.
We highly value the theoretical and practical contributions of President Xi's leadership at the helm of the Party's Central Committee in the construction of socialism with Chinese characteristics in a new era, which we consider as real encouragement for all progressive forces worldwide.
Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping expressed his country's willingness to cooperate with Cuba at different levels, strengthening bilateral ties.
China is ready to work with Cuba to deepen mutual political trust, expand practical cooperation, firmly support each other on issues related to mutual core interest, strengthen coordination and cooperation in international and regional affairs, advance hand-in-hand in building socialism with local characteristics, and continuously deepen China-Cuba relations in a new era.
During the meeting, Xi Jinping referred to strengthening cooperation in international affairs with a view to moving forward in the construction of socialism and deepening China-Cuba relations in the new era. Following the talks, the high-level officials signed 12 documents, a political consultation plan between both ministries of foreign affairs and a foreign trade memorandum of understanding, and an agreement on exchange and cooperation between the Communist Party of Cuba and the Communist Party of China. The representatives of the Chinese government made official the delivery of donations of school materials, basic supplies, and technology for telecommunications, among others. As part of his agenda, Diaz-Canel honored the heroes of the Chinese people in a heartfelt ceremony in the emblematic Tiananmen Square and met with members of the Chinese parliament and the Cuban state mission in the Asian country. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning responded after the United Kingdom government departments were ordered to stop installing Chinese-made surveillance cameras at sensitive sites, drawing strong criticism from one of the companies targeted.
The Chinese government has always encouraged Chinese entrepreneurs to conduct foreign trade and investment cooperation in accordance with market principles and international rules and abiding by local laws. China firmly opposes those who overstretch the concept of national security and unjustifiably suppress Chinese companies. We will continue to follow closely any development in this regard. The Chinese government will also firmly safeguard the legitimate rights and interests of Chinese companies.
Now we move on to other topics. The president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, has warned that Ukraine is planning to escalate the military conflict under the control of the United States. Lukashenko blamed Ukrainian authorities for exacerbating the conflict with Russia instead of seeking resolution to avoid threatening the mere existence of their country. Lukashenko said that the recent execution of young Russian soldiers shows that the U.S. have a strong control over Kyiv. Finally, Lukashenko said that the Ukrainian people who are bearing the brunt of the conflict will eventually force President Vladimir Zelensky to reach a diplomatic commitment. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Afghanistan, a United Nations mission has urged the Taliban government to stop violence against women. The UN mission in Afghanistan warned of the loss of rights endured by women since August 2021, with the arrival of the Taliban to power. The Taliban government has enforced such restrictive and discriminatory measures as a ban on secondary education for teenage girls, a veto on women for a large number of jobs, and the mandatory use of the burqa. Such restrictions have reinforced social norms considered traditional by the current government and that normalize the use of violence as an element of control. UN mission leader Rosa Orumbabella said protecting women's rights is crucial for stability, prosperity, and peace in Afghanistan. Ugandan authorities closed schools nationwide after 23 Ebola cases were confirmed among pupils, including 8 children. The Ministry of Education announced the closure of pre-primary, primary and secondary schools from November 25th, 2 weeks before the scheduled end of term. According to the Health Ministry, the country has confirmed 141 Ebola cases and 55 deaths so far. The nation's First Lady, Janet Museveni, confirmed there had been cases in 5 schools in the capital, Kampala, as well as in neighboring Bwakizo district and Mubende, the epicenter of the outbreak. And just as the hearts of millions of fans live the emotions of the Qatar 2022 World Cup, TeleSUR joins this sporting event with From the Field, a show that brings news, analysis, reviews, and more to our audience. Don't miss it. Our show airs 1 p.m. local time in Caracas and 12 p.m. New York. Remember, From the Field, only on TeleSUR. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.